Welcome to the 2024 installment of the top 10 albums of this year. Last year's was pretty rough. I was getting there. 2022 wasn't that engaging of a video. Last year's I kind of stepped it up, but this year's I'm going to make it as concise and not boring as possible. Also because Periphery and Sleep Token aren't on this list. And yes, I like Sleep Token now. Starting off with number 10, we have F1 Trillion by Post Malone. The first two albums on this list are country albums. I got pretty into country this year. I think it runs a little long, has a couple too many songs, and there are quite a few features on it, but it is a fun listen, and there's not really a song that I can say that I think is bad or that I dislike. And shout out to my guitarist, the guitarist of Parabola, Casper, for recommending me this album. Moving on to number 9, we have The Great American Bar Scene by Zach Bryan. Zach Bryan kind of crosses into, he's always crossed into folk territory, but I think this album he does it the best he's ever done. And some of the choruses and just emotional parts of this album hit so hard. And I'm also pretty upset that Pink Skies isn't on this album. That's kind of a travesty. My favorite track on this one is 28, and we may or may not cover that as a band, but yeah, this album is phenomenal. And there you go, those are the two country albums. Let's go on to metalcore, shall we? Number 7, Exhibition of Prowess by Kublai Khan TX. This year was great for hardcore beatdown, and Kublai Khan pretty much sums it all up. They dropped Antpile 2, which is the sequel to Antpile. I don't know, this album is full of heavy grooves, heavy vocals. Just the way this album grooves is so much fun, and I'm a sucker for a good hi-hat breakdown and yeah, this is a great album for the hardcore scene, and hopefully they keep releasing bangers. Number 6, we have 4 Year Strong with Analysis Paralysis. 4 Year Strong is one of those older bands that crosses the line into easycore, bands like A Day to Remember, Chunk No Captain Chunk. 4 Year Strong has a great album this year. I was actually with my other band, Behold Here's Poison, in Wyoming when this album dropped. And 2 of my bands dropped on the same day, so that was pretty cool. We listened to it going to Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, so that was pretty fun. Analysis Paralysis is definitely very different for the band. It still has some easy core moments, but it's really a lot more experimental and more rocky, and almost more electronic and industrial. It's a very cool concept for the band. They weren't a band that I was expecting to cross into that territory. Wage War, on the other hand, but yeah, this was a great album, and some fun choruses, some fun grooves. So yeah. Top 5, we're moving into the top 5 here. We have Boundaries with Death is Little More. Boundaries are a local band from Connecticut, and they really popped off this year. They're actually signed to Periphery's record label, 3 Dot Recordings, so that's actually how I found out about them. But this album is, again, another hardcore album, and it's relentless and ruthless and extremely, extremely heavy. So it's pretty fun. A lot of the vocals hit hard for me. Another band that I was actually thinking of putting on this list was Imminent, but I don't know, some of the songs on that album didn't hit me as well. But I think Boundaries has a phenomenal hardcore record with this, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do in the future, because I believe that this is their debut. Correct me if I'm wrong. I probably am, but alright, anyway, number 4, we have Negative Spaces by Poppy. I found out about Poppy through the Knock Loose collab this year on Suffocate. Stay tuned for that. And then she dropped the first single for this album, like in June or so. And I don't know much about Poppy's back catalog, but she wasn't really that into metal, so seeing that full step for just committing for this album is pretty cool, and I think she does it very, very well. Another big part of it was it was produced by Jordan Fish, ex-Bring Me the Horizon, so that was obviously all the choruses on there are phenomenal, because Bring Me always likes good choruses. Stay tuned for that as well. But my personal favorite song on this album is The Center's Falling Out, and she's just trying to be knocked loose, and I dig it. Alright, great vocals on this for stream, but really kind of enjoy it. Album number 3, we have Posthuman Next Gen by Bring Me the Horizon. We all knew this was coming. Well, we actually didn't know this was coming because they announced it the day before it dropped, so that was cool. We didn't have to wait. But I think this is one of the most unique albums I've heard in a long time. I'm kind of mad that we had to wait 4 years for this, but the wait was worth it. And I think this album absolutely delivers on all sides. I think this is a 10 out of 10. Even the interludes have some cool stuff to them. The last interlude, OST Pussy, wasn't very interesting, but it's just a bunch of like scraps. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bunch of scraps from their music to listen to, EP that they released back in 2019. But I think some of the standout songs on this, definitely top 10 statues that cried blood. I reacted to that one as well. Utopia, Amen. Pretty much everything that wasn't a single. The singles didn't really catch me when they were released, other than Amen. But now, with the full album, I listen to it as an album, and it feels a lot more cohesive, and I love every song on it. So, another cool song on this was R.I.P., which kind of, they step into that hyperpop territory, but, you know, the drums still sound like, you know, Zach Sardini production, obviously. I love Zach Sardini. And the last song, Dig It, was definitely a very eye-opening emotional experience, and probably has the heaviest breakdown on the album, so that's cool. And 2 minutes of silence, in case you were looking for that on this. Alright, on to number 2. We have Bill Murray with American Motorsports. This kind of highlighted my rise into country this year. This dropped the week before July 4th, so that was great. And this album is such a cool mix between, I mean, Bill Murray's always been doing that kind of stuff, but it's such a fun album to listen to. The features are all great on this album, unlike Post Malone. I think some of the features took away from that album experience. But I think Bill Murray has some of the best choruses I've heard flat out this year, and the country influence in this, like on Better Hell and Empty Handed. Empty Handed is probably my favorite Bill Murray song in general, and I've been listening to Bill Murray for a while. And this album is just so much fun to listen to, and so chock full of heavy grooves and fun country licks. So yeah, I mean, Casper doesn't like metalcore, and he liked it, so what do I know? And the long-awaited number 1, my favorite album of the year. I think I've mentioned them already. I think we all know who my favorite number 1 is. You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To by Noctilus. This album is 27 minutes long, and not a second is wasted. A problem that I see with a lot of, you know, hardcore, metalcore albums is that all the songs sound the same, and it ends up, listening to a full album, it ends up just being kind of a drag, because you're pretty much getting the same thing over and over. I think Knocked Loose did such a great job of making this album an actual storyline, and every song has so much that sets it apart from the rest of the album. The transitions on this were great. The entire song, Take Me Home, was building up to Slaughterhouse 2, which I also reacted. And this album feels like a story, and the atmosphere is so cool. I've never seen a hardcore band do that. And the last song, Sit and Mourn, is super dark, and I think this entire album has such a cool atmosphere that you don't really get these days. So, and they absolutely popped off. This has an 88 out of 100 album of the year rating, which is crazy because album of the year really likes to hate stuff, especially my bands. Speaking of my bands, we're going on to honorable mentions, which I only have 2 of because, well, I mean, I guess Imminence the Black. But I put my own bands in honorable mentions because they're my bands. So, we have Behold Here's Poison with To Our Past Selves for Our Future Shades. I produced that and co-wrote a couple songs on it, and did some vocals also, so that was pretty cool. I'm really proud of that album. And we have Beyond a Reasonable Doubt by Parabola. I could have put the debut, but I feel like our second album is a lot better. Yes, that would be it. I want you to check out Parabola and Behold Here's Poison, and that's going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a great New Year and a Merry Christmas. And I